Hey guys, welcome to our very first Secure the Bag OT Formula One edition. So joining me today is our regular co-host Matt and our new special guest Cody. Bit about Cody, he's a world champion go-kart racer. So introduce yourself, mate.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Cody Gillis. I race go-karts, obviously, as Anthony just said. I thought, these guys, I know Matt from, when I was a child, and they wanted to do the F1 podcast, and I thought, I could probably bring like sort of a racer's kind of point of view to the conversation, not just
Definitely.
obviously people watch it and like I can sort of live it and give my side to the story of obviously all the debates we're going to have.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good. And Matt doesn't need any introduction because Matt's Matt.
Nice to see him off again.
He's pissed me off today.
Hey,
so
I did piss you off. Young boys pissed you off this morning.
Okay, all right. The football club, not the actual Young Boys. Okay, so on today's episode, we're going to run through a few things in the Formula One world. So we're going to be looking at Daniel Ricciardo's revival, who deserves a seat next season from the F2 because we've got Alfa Romeo still with the seat left. We're obviously going to talk about Monza and Lewis versus Max Verstappen. So I don't think we can start a podcast being Aussies without talking about Daniel Ricciardo.
No way.
What a win. Dominant from start to finish. So just for context, I mean, it's his first win since Monaco in 2018. And I think his best result this year so far was P4 in Spa a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Cody, maybe you can give us some insight. I mean, that was great racing, wasn't it?
Yeah, like obviously it's being Aussie, which it's not good to see. The one Aussie in the field and he's just not performing, and it's hard to see, especially when your teammate. He's got a teammate who's pretty much, let's be honest, just smacked him all year.
Oh yeah,
absolutely annihilated him all year.
Absolutely.
And at the start of the year, you think about all the talk was, geez, like Lando's going good in this car. Is Ricciardo going to hop in and straight away win races? And that's, I guess, everyone was sort of thinking that. So it's been a bit of a shock to the first half of the season where he's been pretty average. So I guess the Spa, from Spa, where he was fourth and he was up there in the practices, you sort of got that feeling. And then to come out at Monza and like literally it was the perfect weekend.
Yeah, it was. I don't love the new F1 sprint kind of format that they did. I think that helped him a lot though. I don't think his qualifying pace was near enough. I don't think he wouldn't have been on the podium for qualifying. Like he wouldn't have been. I reckon he was sitting about P4, P5.
No, definitely not.
I think. I mean, he raced really dominant, similar to how he raced in Monaco. I mean,
yeah.
It was.
I feel like
it's good to see.
I feel like Ricciardo, for some reason, I don't know. Obviously, we've all watched it, but qualifying was never his forte. I guess like he never always produced a massive lap and put it on pole. He was more of the, he'd start top 5 and 3/4 into the race, you go like, shit, he's going to win this. Like his race pace and his consistency every lap's just fast.
Except when he was at Renault, because the car broke down.
Renault, he obviously had some decent results there, but yeah, Renault was another story.
Oh, mate. I mean, he was blaming the car earlier this year for being shit. And if you're saying the McLaren shit, I can't imagine what he was going through at Renault, because that was a god awful car. But it's interesting because now the Constructors Championship, if Ricciardo can keep that, if he can keep performing, now McLaren have got both their drivers getting points. So Ferrari doesn't look very comfortable in third for Constructors anymore.
And I feel like McLaren's definitely finding their feet, if that makes any sense. It's like McLaren's on the up, while Ferrari at the moment they're losing a little bit of they're losing pace. Like Sainz can't even keep it on the track without putting it in the wall.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
it's you're right. The constructors, it's definitely going to be a tighter race, I think, towards the end of the year.
Yeah,
That's what we like to see, though. That's what everyone likes to see, some close races for those podium finishes as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Ferrari not performing at Monza is a bit alarming. I mean, they traditionally always do well at Monza, even when they had that shit car a few years ago. I mean, I think I can see McLaren clutching third. I can see it happening. If Ricciardo can keep, even if he finishes like P6, P5, just to get those points, because I think, Sainz, even Leclerc's not looking that great, but Sainz, he's not going to finish many races, I don't think. Well, he's gone. If he does finish, he'll be 7th or 8th behind Ricciardo if Ricciardo drives like this.
And the other thing that Ferrari's got to worry about, the budget. I'm pretty sure the budget's in this year where they can only spend a certain amount of money, and I reckon old Sainz has done a few dollars worth of damage in the past couple of weekends.
Oh shit, yeah. Actually, it'll be interesting coming into. I want to bring it up when we talk about Max versus Lewis, but it'll be interesting coming into Singapore with the narrow course, narrow track. If Sainz has a shitty race there and he puts it into the wall, that Singapore could come down to being like who wins third. Because I think
Definitely.
there's not really any tight courses like Singapore up until the end of the year.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think it could come up to Singapore where it's whichever team has both cars finish could get third.
Yeah, I think so.
Just going back to that cost cap for F1. Just looking at some stats here for 2021, they've got a cost cap for 145 million, and then it slowly reduces to 140 in 2022, and then 135 to 2023 and onwards as well.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
I didn't.
Yeah, go on, mate.
I didn't know if it was in effect this year, but yeah, like you think about Sainz has pretty much had 2 write-offs in the past 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So that's really got to take a bit out of their budget. That's going to take a little bit out of their R&D budget. I think it's really going to affect Ferrari.
For sure.
Definitely.
For sure. I think in saying that, Sainz's seat is safe for next year. Leclerc's seat is safe for next year. Everyone but Alfa Romeo has their lineup sorted. So obviously we've got Bottas going to Alfa Romeo next year.
Mm-hmm.
Who pairs him?
My opinion, I feel Giovinazzi, he's probably done a good job for who he is and what he's done, but I think he's had his couple of years spell and he's got to go.
He was never their first choice.
Exactly. You got to have a young guy that's willing to be there, that wants to be there. Once Bottas with the driver he is, he'll be able to sort of mold the younger person as well to become better.
Big time. Anyone that can go from P20 to P3 is unbelievable.
Anyone who can be a teammate with Lewis Hamilton for that long and not crash into him and not lose their head, man, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's special. He's a talent. He does. I actually wanted him to stay at Mercedes. We might touch on it a bit later. I don't think George Russell was ready for the step up, but I mean, I think Piastri, the Aussie kid's in for a good shout.
Yeah. So funny thing, I actually used to race Piastri. Used to race Oscar like way back. Like we were probably like 13, 14, and we'd race each other every weekend. So obviously, personally, like I want him to make it. Like,
of course,
I know he's a good kid. Like he was always clean racer. He was fucking good in a go-kart. Like I want him to make it, and I see it more as my opinion. He's probably not going to, not because he's not talented, but because what's the Chinese guy's name? Zhou?
Zhou?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't really know, to be honest. But he's bringing money. He's bringing.
Yeah, he's bringing money, and he's got 2 race wins this year as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Piastri just won Monza.
Yeah.
But the only other real people, I don't think Giovinazzi keeps his seat. Schwartzman, he's 3rd in F2 at the moment. He's got he hasn't got a race win against his name, so I can't see him going for him either.
It's I don't know. It's hard to say. Just like I said, like obviously money's a big thing.
Yeah.
I also think F1 they want I guess, more diversity, I guess you could say, in the field. Like at the moment, they don't have a Chinese driver, so they might want to diversify it a bit. It's definitely appealing because then it makes it more of a world stage sort of.
Considering they have a Chinese Grand Prix.
Exactly.
So yeah, it would bring in a new audience, I think.
Yeah. Untapped audience that probably never had before, or probably a limited amount. So yeah, it'd be good to get like a different country involved, sort of broaden their horizons a little bit. We've seen a few sports do that recently as well, so it's not uncommon, and it probably will happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's going to happen. I don't mind Giovinazzi. He's not going to get the seat. I don't mind him. Italian Jesus.
No.
But I know. I actually don't. I think he's had some good races in the past. He's not really been on form this year, but
no.
But like, I struggle, like the Haas boys, right? Mazepin and Schumacher. I could see Schumacher in a Alfa Romeo. The only reason he's doing so shitty is because he's in a Haas. Like, they could have gone in hard for someone like Schumacher or Latifi or someone or somebody else other than a Formula 2 driver.
Yeah.
But
I definitely with the obviously there's obviously been a few like re-signings this year, and I feel like some of the re-signings you sort of wonder, like,
it's especially Alex Albon.
Yeah, like
that blew my fucking mind. Alex Albon, Matt, just for context, Matt, Alex Albon, young kid, he raced for Red Bull.
Okay,
a couple of years ago, raced for Red Bull. He's like a fill-in kind of. They need somebody to pair Verstappen with, and he got the nod. I think he got a couple. Did he get 2 podiums? Maybe it was just the one.
A couple of podiums.
But he was shit. Honestly, apart from the podium, he was quite shit. And now he's just got another seat.
And to be fair to him, like he was paired up with Verstappen.
True,
and
one of the best drivers of all time.
And I feel like by the end of the season, Verstappen had pretty much just broke him down mentally, where he was done. He couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't turn up every weekend and get annihilated.
Yeah. It's same thing happened to Pierre Gasly. So,
well, I guess when you're paired up with one of the best in the world and you're coming in as a fill-in, there's a lot of pressure on you just to try and to edge yourself up into those placings and sort of move, I think, Red Bull further up into the spots by the end of the season. So
that's what happened with. It's exactly what happened with Daniel Ricciardo. Exactly what happened with Daniel Ricciardo. He wanted to be the main driver. He wanted to be the number one. He wanted to have the number 1 seat. It wasn't going to happen. So.
And honestly, I always look back at that, and out of all of Verstappen's teammates, Ricciardo's the only one who ever sort of gave it to him, really.
Yeah, like, I mean, Perez is doing okay now, but he's not. Yeah. He's not on Verstappen's level, not even close.
Yeah, exactly. And when Ricciardo was there, he was, it was sort of a 50-50. Like Ricciardo would get this week, and then Verstappen would get the next week. Where all his past teammates, Verstappen is just. Obviously, Checo's a little bit better, but Verstappen's still doing him every weekend.
Oh yeah, Verstappen's a talent, and I don't think nobody's going to pass him.
Is that just based on talent of the driver, or is that like a sort of a tactic to propel Verstappen's position higher?
It's a bit of both. Right? Verstappen's no doubt he's probably the second most talented driver on the track, right? No doubt. I think
I'd almost say he's the most talented, to be honest. I feel
think?
like he's raw natural talent. I'm going Verstappen, but I feel like Hamilton works at it a lot harder than
I think
Verstappen
he
ever
does.
had to.
I think, I mean, you look at Lewis dominant over so many years. I think Lewis is going to win championship this year again. But and then this will tie in great to our next topic: Verstappen versus Lewis, right? So I think at the moment, Red Bull have the dominant car. They're definitely the quickest car on the grid, right?
Yeah.
And they have been since. I want to say they made an upgrade. It was either before, I think it was after Silverstone. It might have been Spa. They made an upgrade, and even Lewis Hamilton came out and said himself there was nothing he could do. Their last upgrade has made them a better car.
Yeah.
And I think Lewis would have won Monza. I mean, Verstappen had his pit, whatever, right? But Lewis had a bad pit stop as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still think Lewis is probably the best driver out on the track, but they're very, very close. It's very close.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I feel like Hamilton sort of worked at it all his life and, fine-tuned all his skills to be as good as he is.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Verstappen is just a raw, he just goes out and drives, and he's just naturally gifted driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He takes places like it's going out of fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, and if Lewis wasn't there, Verstappen would have won the last 2 or 3 years.
Exactly.
So, and he's only 23.
Yeah.
So
23.
Yeah. If Lewis had retired or he had a bad crash or whatever, like Verstappen would have already been on the track and he would have beat Schumacher and Lewis's. He'll beat Schumacher and Lewis's record, I think, for titles. But I mean, we've got to see, right?
I think there's a 12-year difference between Hamilton and Verstappen. I think something like that. So you sort of.
12.
I think it's around the 10-year difference, I believe. Something I thought it was somewhere around there, but I guess you look at that and you see, well, the next I guess 10 years of the sport is pretty well set between those two guys. There's not really much challenging, not really many drivers to challenge them, I guess.
That's true.
That's true. And I feel like Anthony said, how he believes that Lewis will win the championship this year. And to be honest with you, I agree with him on that more because of the age difference. Hamilton's got that little bit more maturity, that little bit more, he's not out there just driving on the edge, just trying to win, where Verstappen's young and he just wants to win races. So I think this is why we're seeing the crashes happen. And I feel like Hamilton will get to the stage where he'll be mature enough to just let Verstappen go and let him ruin his own race, if you know what I mean.
And that ties in almost perfectly with the Monza incident. So, Matt, I'm not obviously everybody knows it now. It's pretty huge. I personally think it was Hamilton's fault. Sorry, it was Verstappen's fault. I think Hamilton gave him ample room. So for any of the listeners that didn't capture it, I'm not sure why you're listening and why you've made it this far if you don't watch F1. But
because you love the content, you love the podcast and the content,
and the hosts. The hosts are pretty good as well. So both Hamilton and Verstappen had really bad pit stops. Both came out. Hamilton comes out of the pits. Verstappen comes out alongside Verstappen. They go around the chicane. Excuse me. They go around the chicane, and Hamilton didn't. He gave Verstappen enough room, but Verstappen didn't take the off ramp. So, I mean, Cody, what do you make of it, man? From a racing perspective, at least.
From a racing perspective, we probably get to the stage where that for me, that's just, there's two people, right? There's one corner, there's one piece of road, and Hamilton's like, no, I'm not giving it up. Obviously, Verstappen's going, I'm not giving it up because Verstappen, and there's a crash. For me, it's exactly like Silverstone. Silverstone, they go, Hamilton took him out, Verstappen turned in, for me, it's the same thing. There's one piece of road, and it's pretty much neither of them wants to give in, and it's always going to end up in a crash. It always happens.
Do you think Hamilton gave him enough room?
I feel like Hamilton gave him enough room to an extent, but I think it's very Hamilton in his head going, all right, I'm gonna give him room, but I'm not gonna let him in.
Do it for the officials,
And Verstappen's going, well, no, he's giving me a little bit of room, I'm going in. And it's
so from these two crashes, do you think it's more of like a hunger to take over one another while they're driving, like to pass through into, I guess, a higher position than what the other person is, or do you reckon it's more of a calculated move to keep Verstappen at keep his lead in points at the moment over Hamilton?
It's a really interesting point, right? Because the same thing happened at Monza. The exact same thing happened in the first lap. Hamilton, it was nearly identical, right?
Yeah.
And Hamilton took the easy way out, and he didn't go around the corner. Didn't get penalised for it. It was fine. He didn't gain any positions. It was fine. And he did the mature thing.
We're coming back to the
maturity.
Verstappen's young, and I'm not going to say half-stupid, but he's just young, and he just wants to win races, and he's just million miles an hour. Where, like you said, you got Hamilton, who's he's halfway through it, and he's thought about it and gone, you know what, we're going to crash.
Yeah.
So he took the alternate route.
Well, I think, and that was a really interesting point that you brought up, Matt. I think Verstappen in his mind, he's like, fuck it, I'm not going to take the easy way out. I'm going to try it. Even if I crash, I've still won this weekend.
And he's 5 points ahead of Hamilton in the leaderboard as well. So you sort of think to yourself, is it something he's done to sort of mitigate Hamilton's catch up to him in the leaderboard? But
I don't think it's something that Verstappen would put past himself. I could see him doing that.
No,
he's made he's made stupid decisions
because
before.
You look at after the crash happens, and you see Verstappen get out and just walk straight back to the pits. And normally I'm going to ask you, Cody, but normally, like, even if someone crashes, I think the general practice is get out and check on the other person, make sure they're all right. And that's sort of like that driving etiquette, I guess, but where, like, you see this crash and Verstappen just gets up and goes straight to the pits.
Probably in a crash like that, you'd probably, the first instance you'd be pissed because you're like, oh, I've just crashed. And as a racing driver, it's always someone else's fault. It's never your fault.
Yeah.
And I feel like probably wasn't the best thing just walking straight off. He probably should have checked on Hamilton, but
I mean, the halo saved his life.
100%. The halo saved his life. That looks shit, and you can't see, and it's dangerous, and all this. Look,
Hamilton
if that wasn't there, exactly. So, thank you FIA for saying we need the halo. Obviously that's made a big difference. Just I don't know. It's just the immaturity of Verstappen's just. I feel like it's going to bring him unstuck.
It will, and the FIA, I think, share the same view as you do, because they've given him a 3-place grid penalty for Sochi. I read somewhere that he might need to change. He's going to incur an engine penalty. I read that he's probably going to incur the engine penalty. So he's going to start back in grid anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's no better time to incur the penalty than this week.
Yeah, I feel like they've had the penalty, and they've been trying to figure out when they're going to use it. And as soon as they got the 3 grid place, they went, you know what, we're just going to use it now, because even if we put it on pole, we're going to start 4th anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
We might as well just go to the back of the grid and just do it all again. Like it's But
so I mean, and I want to move on quickly, but I know you touched on Silverstone. Just quick fire. Whose fault do you think it was? For context, I actually think it was Verstappen's fault, because he shouldn't have turned in.
I'm going with Verstappen, because you watch the onboard, you watch Hamilton's car. Hamilton's inside, and then Max comes across. Yeah. And if you've actually watched Verstappen's in-car footage, You watch
He
him
twists the wheel.
calm, look, and
Yeah.
then just start turning.
He turns in.
Where,
He definitely turns in.
yeah,
And Hamilton was cheering. Hamilton got what, a 10-second penalty for that and still won the race.
yeah,
Yeah,
and just drove
In
off
his
into the
mind, that's a
distance.
W, man.
Yeah. And I think there was a tweet by Verstappen while he was in the hospital where he was watching Hamilton celebrate, and he was talking about I think it was celebrating like that was unsportsmanlike. I think that was the wording in his tweet.
Yeah.
So do you guys think there should be like a higher penalty than 10 seconds for, or do you think there should be some type of implication for unsportsmanlike?
Not for Hamilton, because I don't think it was his fault.
No, exactly. I feel like it was Verstappen's fault in the first place. So
yeah,
like
Verstappen's not an idiot either. He knows what he was doing.
No,
he knows what he was doing.
And
all right, boys.
Just quickly before with the Hamilton Verstappen thing, from a racing point of view, I think it's going to get to the point where Verstappen's just going to keep being Verstappen and keep crashing with Hamilton, and you'll find it'll get to the point where Hamilton will probably.
Oh, we've lost you.
So it's going to be.
Sorry, we lost you for those last 10 seconds, mate. What were you saying? It'll get to the point
where I feel like Hamilton he'll give up. He'll not give up. He'll just he'll get out of the way. If Verstappen's firing up the inside, he won't bother. He'll go, you know what? I'll save it for 3 corners later, and then I'll worry about it.
Yeah, and I think as soon as Hamilton wins this 8th title, what's he got to prove now? He's like, okay, I'm now technically I'm the best driver of all time. I'm technically the most accomplished driver of all time. Well, take the place, man. I don't care.
Yeah,
it's really tough to see Verstappen winning 8 titles because he's already 23.
And you always, people go, oh, well, Hamilton. What if Hamilton retires next year? And there's always going to be There's always going to be someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't believe George Russell's fitting for Mercedes, and I don't think he's as good as everyone says he is.
Oh, mate, we've got to get you on the podcast more. He's tying in perfectly for our last little segment, George Russell Mercedes. Continue, please.
But yeah, I don't think he's as good as everyone says he is. So
I agree.
But there's going to be someone. There's going to be someone else who he might not fill Hamilton's shoes, but he's going to take it to Verstappen.
Maybe it's Lando.
It might be Ricciardo. It might be Lando. You don't know.
Lando. Yeah.
Exactly.
Lando's looking really tasty this year. So,
that's the thing. We don't know who it's going to be, but there's always going to be someone.
Yeah. Yeah, and Matt, I'm not sure how all over George Russell you are, but he currently drives for Williams.
Yeah, that's correct.
He's in Mercedes school pretty much, right?
Yeah.
School of Mercedes, and he's only 20, 21,
20, 22, 23, I think he is, because he joined Mercedes junior team in 2017, and he was 18 at the time.
Oh, so he's probably 21, 22.
Yeah. I remember the Mercedes team boss said that it's early days in his career, but they see great potential in him when he signed to their junior club.
I mean, he's been in the Williams car for 3 seasons now. I don't think he's as good as everyone hypes him up to be. I know Williams don't have a great car, right? And he qualifies well, but during the race, I don't think he's not aggressive enough. He loses positions too easily. If Ricciardo's coming up behind him, he's not defending that. But I mean, He's a great qualifier, but not a great driver in my opinion. Like Cody, mate, from a racing perspective, I mean, there's one thing to qualify well. There's one thing to practice well. When it comes to that final race, how do you view George Russell?
I feel like, he, you know what, he can go out in qualifying and he can put a lap in. Like he probably can do a faster lap than anyone in the same car as them. But I feel like he's a lot like Verstappen in the sense of the maturity's not there. I feel like maybe he's probably not quite like Verstappen where maturity for Verstappen is he needs to calm down and needs to mellow out a little bit. I feel like Russell's more of a. The problem is the confidence isn't really there. I don't believe. I feel like the confidence to qualify maybe, but to race, I don't know if he doesn't feel like he should be there or he's disappointing someone. But it just looks like he's always on edge when it comes to racing.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he should be in the. I mean, traditionally the quickest car on the grid. Doesn't look like he deserves that seat. I mean, he's only finished in points twice this year. I think he finished 8th in Hungary.
That's correct.
And then
got the first
got
podium finish. In Belgium, the Belgian Grand Prix. He got 2nd, I think. So he's currently 15th with 15 points.
Well, that's okay, right? But you talked about the maturity just then, and it's a really good point. I mean, you've got Verstappen, who's not mature at all. He's still young, but you've got Checo next to him, who brings in a ton of experience. He's a little bit more mature. He knows what he's doing, right? But he's going to bring a sense of maturity to that team. And Lewis, being 36, he's only got a couple, maybe 2 more seasons in him, maybe if that.
2 max, maybe 3.
Yeah, maybe 3. But then by that time, George Russell's not going to be the mature driver that he should be. So you're going from being an immature, inexperienced driver, paired with the best driver of all time, to having nothing and nobody in a couple of years. And I actually don't think he'll be there in 2 or 3 years. He'll probably be back at fucking Williams for all I know.
I feel like you said, with Perez, with Verstappen, and I feel like although people don't think about it like this, I feel like Perez probably helps Verstappen in a way because
definitely.
Because Perez has gone to Red Bull and he knows, all right, I'm number 2. I'm here. If Verstappen needs anything, that's what I'm here for, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's going to the team and he's been to the team and he understands his role and he understands how he's going to do it. He's experienced, and I feel like that's going to push Red Bull and Verstappen just that little bit further. And like you said, when Hamilton retires and it's just Russell, who's going to be the supporting crew? Who's going to be the factor that pushes them further?
You always need that old head. Sorry, Nathan. You always need that old head with a bit of experience to sort of guide the younger guys through, as like what Cody was saying. So it's always good to have someone like that.
Yeah, I think, and he's had that number 1 seat before, right? So he was paired with Lance Stroll at Racing Point a couple years ago. And Lance Stroll, as much as him and his dad probably wanted it to be, he was the number 2 driver.
Yeah.
He had the number 2 seat. So Perez has had his time at the top, and he's been a great driver for years, right? He's 31. And I think he's happy at this point in his career. He's happy to say, okay, well, Verstappen's great. I get to be in the quickest car on the grid now. Let's go have fun with it. And it shows because he finished, he technically finished 3rd on the grid. Technically finished 3rd in the race, but with the penalty. But and I think he's happy being the 2nd if he's in the quickest car on the grid. Even 2nd is still going to get a podium most weeks.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's probably fulfilling for him to be a part of, when Verstappen being successful and Red Bull, Red Bull at the start of this year probably weren't that, I guess, that competitive.
No,
and now
they didn't have a quick car.
Exactly. And you know what? He might have been the factor that's given them that little bit of feedback to make the car even quicker. Like, I feel like he probably gets enjoyment and fulfillment out of helping the team being that little bit older.
Yeah, and I don't think nobody, if you had asked him 2 or 3 years ago when he was at Force India and then like Racing Point, if they said, okay, you're going to be racing like probably the tied quickest car on the grid at 31 years old, I don't think he would have expected that at all. So I think he just wants to be part of the project. And he just wants to have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And he can win. He can win in this car. So
exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, boys, I think that will probably wrap us up for today. Thank you for joining us, Cody. It was really great to have you on. Really great to get that extra bit of insight, and we'll definitely have to do it again.
Anytime. 100%.
All right, guys. So thank you for tuning in to Secure the Bag OT Formula One edition. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on our socials in the description below, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.